It is an overcast morning at Zandvoort, but at least it is dry as we get set for qualifying for the Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. It kicked off at Manicourt, and now they come to the reprofiled Zandvoort circuit with that new pit exit you can see. It's a pretty breezy morning. Last night, or yesterday evening really, into the early evening, we had some torrential rain for about 3 hours, which flooded the tunnels, which meant the circuit was absolutely unsafe for cars to circulate. So the timetable a bit rejigged for today. The good news is a huge amount of work by the track staff means that the circuit is dry and it's safe and it's good to go racing. And we have a strong entry of 27 cars looking forward to the track activity this morning. David Addison and John Watson with you. Gemma Scott down in the pit lane. John, it's a good old school circuit, but one or two corners being dragged into the modern Formula One age, aren't they?
Always a pleasure at Zandvoort. I mean, it's a revised racetrack, a newly revised pit lane exit. But the one thing I will say about Zandvoort, on a day like today, I don't know what speed the wind's blowing, and I just missed it on the weather. Looking at the 4.259 kilometer racetrack, 3 sectors, of course, it is sandy. And that's with a capital S. Wind blowing all the way down from the exit of the Arilaan Bocht, which is now, of course, the exit, which is a banked exit, all the way down to Tarzan. 6.7 kph. Looks more than that, but what I noticed on some of the camera shots when we were setting up, the amount of sand that has been blown as the cars come through the Arilaan Bocht. You can literally see it being blown all the way up the bank circuit.
Yeah, wind speed of 6.7, and it's going up a little bit. So they're looking down into the pit lane. Thomas Tuiler is going to be the first to go. Now, again, if you're new to the Sprint Cup, it is 1 session per day. So they qualify today for today's race. They qualify tomorrow morning for tomorrow's race, and it's 1 driver per session. There is some of the sand that John was talking about. It's offline for the moment, but of course, John, can get blown online very quickly indeed, can't it?
Yeah, so I mean, just you can see the flags flying totally horizontally as cars now make their way down just to get into position for the track to go green. What was interesting to me, David, yesterday was just how much it appeared that the ACA ASP Mercedes kind of dominated what we were seeing in those 2 sessions that were available to the teams on Friday. We had that pre-practice session starting initially and then going on to a pre-qualifying session. Ironically, it was the free practice session that proved to be the fractionally quicker of the 2.
Yes, in the pre-qualifying session, Jules Gounon set the time. In free practice, it was Jim Pla, and Jim is going to do qualifying duties in this session, we're told, as driver 1. So I think he's going to be a possible tip for pole position. 5th time the Sprint Cup has been to Zandvoort. It was here in 14 and 15, then 19 and 20. Audi is the most successful brand with 3 wins. Bentley and Lamborghini have got 2. Mercedes only 1. And in terms of a driver, the absent Vincent Abril is the most successful with 3 victories to his name. We've got a bit of driver shuffling as they like to go green at pit out. The cars make their way onto the circuit. For example, we've got WRT shuffling drivers a touch. We've got 1 or 2 driver swaps at Emile Frey Racing as well. And also Patrick Cuéllar stands down from the Rinaldi Ferrari. David Perel takes over that seat. Nelson Panciatici is in at CMR in Bentley 108 in place of Benjamin Lessem. So we'll keep an eye to what's going on in terms of drivers, but also in terms of time, because, John, in 20 minutes, there's not a lot you can do here.
Very little, and of course everybody was keen to get out at the minute the track did go green. Having done all the running yesterday, of course, teams have a pretty good idea.
To everyone, a reminder, in case of red flag during the session, the clock will not stop. In case of red flag during the session, the clock will not stop.
Well, just a reminder for the teams that if anything goes wrong, first of all, try and ensure that nothing does go wrong. But of course, it's not just a driver error, there can be a mechanical issue as well.
Yes, that was the voice of the race director, Alain Adam, you heard. And because the timetable has been rejigged for the day with an extra hour of GT4 practice, therefore things are tight today. There's a lot to cram in. That was before they put another hour of running in. So that's why the teams are being told that we can't stop the clock ordinarily you would in qualifying. Now this, John, has got to be a favourite for pole position, hasn't it? Because you've got two guns behind the wheel of it, whether it's Q1 or Q2, Lukas Stoltz and Maro Engel, and it's Lukas Stoltz at the wheel as he comes off the banking now.
I mean, based on what we saw yesterday, whether it's Team TalkSport, WRT or whatever, and ASP, the Mercedes looked to me to be very, very good. Here is a big change to me. First time we've got a brand new pit lane exit. We didn't quite get a view of it on the inside, but the pit wall now runs all the way down into Tarzan. Here, of course, is the revised Hugenholz box. We saw that last year in a variety of lines, entering and exiting it. Then flat out, up over the top. I mean, this is a wonderful, wonderful part of what is an old school racetrack. And then your car gets a bit airy-fairy, then drops down. You can see the marks on the left-hand side where other, I think that was maybe some of the GT4s had gone off track. And then you go into what is now the latest incarnation of ZANDVOORT, because this was introduced. Oh, wow, Lukas Stoltz almost loses the back of the Mercedes, gathers it up, purple in the first sector, of course, but that means very little. We have 17 minutes remaining.
He's coming up on the 32 Charles Weerts Dries Vanthoor Audi, last year's Sprint Cup champions there. Well, understandably, because we've only really had this as the first flying lap of the session, he's doing purple's absolute best. He's working the car very hard as he comes through the Hans Ernst Bocht into the Kumo Bocht, through the traffic. It's a good lap, this, John.
Well, that's a good effort, certainly. I mean, the last sector, of course, is going to be interfered with. Two cars, the Audi did get out of the way, now coming through that final Lyondike turn. Whether there's any interference, and comes across the line and sets a time of 1:34.909. By far and away the fastest lap that we've seen from these cars over the weekend.
Yeah, indeed, quicker than anybody went yesterday. When the sun broke through yesterday, it was very, very hot indeed. It's not as hot now, I'll tell you, but at least it's dry, as up to the traffic comes then Lukas Stoltz. 55 Audi is Alex Acker, son of the team boss Arkin Acker, and that car needs to dive out of the way. Ricardo Feller, though, has just gone even quicker, and Jim Pla goes yet faster. 1:34.190. So Jim Pla, again, underlining the pace the Mercedes has got around here. He goes top.
Again, another outstanding run by Jimmy Pla. We keep seeing him putting in these lap upon lap upon lap. He's in a Silver Cup car. Again, it's a bit like Johnny Adam. Why not let's put Johnny Adam and Jimmy Pla in neither a Mercedes or an Aston Martin. Send them out. What a driver lineup that would be. Wow, look at the back of the car dancing as it gets very light over the top of the crest.
He's on it, isn't he? Jim Pla, then he's already gone fastest from Ricardo Feller, from Norbert Siedler, but Jimmy Pla proving that you can get 2 laps out of a set of Pirellis here, although he's a little bit down in the first sector, so it looked better than the clock suggests.
And certainly there wasn't an awful lot left at the table. That was total commitment from Jimmy Pla. Now in the middle sector, 34 hundredths of a second down on what was his previous fastest sector, which is, in fact, this is his second flying lap on this set of tires. Again, I mean, he's just within touching distance of making an improvement in lap time. Now this final sector, because this is coming on to the penultimate corner, the Kumo Bocht. Now, why has he got his wipers going? Is the rain at that part of the racetrack? It's hard to tell. Nothing showing in the camera lens. Have a look and see. Comes across the start-finish line. Will there be any further improvement? No, he stays the same, but it's only a 1/10 of a second down.
Look how nervous the car was there under braking into Tarzan. Tarzan looking different, of course. It's got that Formula One strip of tarmac around the outside, so the gravel looks a bit like an island now. You've got roads surrounding it. So 14 minutes of the session to go. We've yet to get a lap time out of Charles Weerts. We've had a report of a spin for number 88 Mercedes, which is the reigning champion Timo Boguslavski, who's the combined champion last year. So Boguslavski's had a drama. Jim Pla hustles on, and we've had an absolute best sector one from Bentley, number 108. Nelson Panciatici has done the absolute best in the first sector. There is a car that's yet to record a proper lap time, Charles Weerts, but it's not going to be on this lap because he's down, as you can see, in sector 1. But Bentley 108 is looking very promising indeed.
Well, Bentley was third quickest in that pre-qualifying session. Yes, not that particular Bentley, the sister car. Charles Weerts, I don't know whether he's just looking for clear racetrack, but at some point, look how much time Paddock lost in that middle sector. Now, is that traffic? 3.4 seconds. He was up 38 hundredths of a second in sector 1. Now he's backed out of it. Will he start to go again? Now builds up speed again. There must be some issue coming through those last 2 corners, because I suspect there's just a very fine mist of rain beginning to fall there. It's not affecting the racetrack. Paddock stays in 7th position.
And we've also had a lap time cancelled from Leo Roussel, number 25 Santalog Audi, for track limits at turn 3, which is the Hugenholzbocht. Now there's a big wall on one side, so how do you exceed track limits? Well, they can see the white line, so go above that, you get an even better exit.
Why you'd want to do that, I cannot imagine. But of course, it is a truly banked corner. So drivers are looking for the way that is easiest to release that car, get the maximum speed off the banking, and then head off into the sand dunes.
So Bentley 108 then. Nelson Panciatici has, John, gone quicker again, absolute best within sector 1.
This time, well, he's got traffic. This time it's Charles Weerts, so that shouldn't be such an issue. But he needs to be able to get a time, because ultimately, the set of tyres he's on, the more laps he does, the more that tyre will plateau out. So Weerts has got personal best, because this is his first, I suppose you might say, serious flying lap. And in fact, by getting close to the tail of the Audi, we've seen that Panciatici has also not had the opportunity to go purple in the middle sector.
So Weerts on his first flyer, doing greens, as you would expect. The question is, where's this going to put him in the grand scheme of things? Ulysse de Pauw, Bentley 107, has gone second, only 4 tenths back from Jim Pla. Charles Weerts breaks the beam to go 7th fastest, 1 minute 34.909. And Nelson Panciatici goes second, a 1/5 of a second down on Jim Pla. So it's Mercedes, Bentley in the top 3. Privateer Bentley, no works program anymore, but CMR doing a ripper job with those cars.
Well, they showed all that pace yesterday, and they're consolidating it again. Very, very good effort indeed by the 2 CMR Bentleys to be able to get between what was initially going to be a Mercedes lockout. In fact, it's the 31 Audi, Frank Bird, who's gone 4th quickest, so it's Mercedes, Bentley,
Red
Bentley
flag,
and Audi.
1 car in the gravel, turn 7.
Car in the gravel at turn 7. It is number 30, we are being told, which is Benji Goethe in the Gulf livery WRT Audi. So we'll try and pick that up, but the clock carries on ticking for this, because we don't have the time to stop the clock in today's timetable. So massive frustration for the teams, because this is going to be a big chunk of time lost now. They can't really go to work until all the cars are in the pit lane. Then they've got to retrieve the car. So there's not going to be much running at the end of this, John. No,
and I'm just looking down timing and scoring at the 88 Mercedes. Timo Boguslawski, 13th quickest, not where you'd expect that car to be. And look down through the field, many drivers, team combinations are going to be feeling, why did somebody have to go off into the gravel? We've got 10 minutes remaining. You can see the marshals running to try and get to that car. They need a pickup truck, or certainly need a snatch vehicle to be able to tow it out of the gravel. The gravel here, as you would imagine, because we're by the beach, is perfectly round, stone-washed gravel. Let's have a look and see. Oh. The back end started to wag the tail, and there we go. And wow, did he ever get far up the gravel? Yeah. He went all the way up, I think, to the barrier. Real bucket and spade job. So Benji Goethe into the gravel, and there are cranes that you just caught a glimpse of on the inside of that corner, turn 7 of Scheveloch. But trouble is, can they reach across? Yes, they can. So there you see the crane does come, and you've got the lifting bar. So that's going to help. That's going to be quite a swift process. That's a very fortuitous position. David, wow. I can guarantee you that how difficult it is to get through gravel. Earlier this week, this is a little aside story just to fill in while we're watching the car being hoisted. I was on the beach at Bognor doing a bit of beach fishing. Right. Of course, Bognor's a gravel beach. And trying to walk back up the gravel beach with my fishing gear was exhausting because I didn't even catch a fish. It was weed centre on the beach on Tuesday. That's adding insult to injury almost, isn't it? All that and you didn't catch anything. I don't know. Well, at least it was vegan. It was vegan weed. Well, there's a rather red-faced Benji Goethe.
So shaking his head, and that's him done for the session. He won't be able to go back out again. So the car will be at best 20th, and if others are able to go quicker, they'll get ahead of him. But it's going to be one banzai effort, isn't it, when the pit lane goes green? Look at the clock ticking on down. Pressure, pressure, pressure.
Well, I must say I'm impressed with the ability of the marshals to get that car removed, because they have cranes. The corner at the back of the circuit, I can't pronounce it, it's Schifflach. Notorious. It's a gravel bed that sort of has arms to welcome you into it.
Yes.
And then it's quite a steep. You can see just he has hit the barrier, and that looks like Tech Pro barrier at the back, and then slid down. So while they're still trying to attach the pulleys to ensure there is a position, every car's got an identical position for the vertical lift from a gravel trap or from a part of the racetrack where
Best lap time of car 30 cancelled for causing a red flag.
So the best lap time of car 30 cancelled for causing the red flag was the message, just to clarify. So I said 20th at best. Well, that lap is going to disappear from the system. So Benji Goethe's second best lap is what they're going to have to count for his grid position. So it might keep him 20th, it might not. And why do you lose? Sorry, John, go.
It's a penalty for an indiscretion, as you pointed out, David, and everybody else in the pit lane so far have behaved themselves. Still trying to get the Audi hoisted up and away to the other side of the racetrack, and just being very careful in how they're doing that.
So they're going to take that lap time away at the end of the session rather than doing it on the hoof. So the classification at the end, we might still have the car shown as 20th as you see it now on the timing tower, but that'll be attended to. The teams now go to the end of the pit lane ready to go. The fast lane is open, and this is going to be very harem-scarum. The fastest lap then, 1.5 minutes, just over 1.5 minutes. So you've got to do an out lap, a start-up lap, and a flyer, and that's just about going to get you to the flag. And if you're first out, you've got more chance of more laps. Quite simple.
And of course, as everybody lines up in the pit lane, the track will get that much busier. And the way of finding where you're going to find your clear lap, where are you going to find an opportunity to get that one single lap in, to elevate yourself up into the, it might be into the top 20 for some, it might be into the top 10. For others, it will be for those that are the usual suspects who will want to consolidate the front two rows of the grid, because as ever, overtaking, and here at Zandvoort is no different, it's still not an easy task.
5.5 minutes and counting, still no green flag. This is the reason the car is still being craned away, so they've done a good job of retrieving it, but now it's got to be... I was going to think they were putting it behind the barrier. By the look of it, they're going to put it on the ground, and Benji Goethe will drive it out of harm's way, but that's going to take yet more time, isn't it?
It certainly is. I thought they were going to take it and drop it down on the other side of the barrier and let this session get underway, but it appears that the decision is to put the car down on the ground on the racetrack and let Benjamin Goethe bring it back to the pit lane. But as we do so, it's just ticking, ticking, ticking.
Well, you're going to get to a point in a moment where you can't get a lap time in, because an out lap is going to be over 2 minutes, and it's going to be more than 2 minutes surely to get that car out of the way. So if you're last in the queue, you've got no chance of a flying lap, but there are going to be some grumpy teams at this rate. They're all queued up ready to go, but we've lost another 2 minutes, I reckon, since the fast lane opened.
Well, there is Goethe getting back in.
But don't strap him in.
I assume that the car will start up on the button it would ordinarily do so, and hope that when he makes his way back to the pit lane from where he is back into the pit lane, it's probably going to take the thin end of a minute. That will bring us down to 3 minutes, just under 3 minutes. And as you point out, David, they might, maybe the lead car, if everything goes appropriately, but it's looking less and less likely that anybody's going to get a flying lap in before the checkered flag comes out to conclude this 20-minute session.
A better plot surely would be to say to Goethe, go to the nearest access point, don't go to the pit lane, just go, find an access point and park, and then we can go. But that's taken 3 minutes since the fast lane opened.
Who would give Benjamin Goethe that instruction?
Race director to marshal, marshal to driver. would be my suggestion.
I mean, he's limping back, as he is required to do. Of course, the racetrack is under red flag conditions, so he's required to come back at no more than 50 kilometers per hour.
Green flag, green flag.
Right, we're in business.
Wow.
So, green flag, but no one's moved. The red flag is still there. Come on, come on. The car at the front of the queue didn't get the message, so that was another 20 seconds lost. Oh, heavens. We're in business now. It's Timo Boguslavski, who was very, very slow out. So, we are in business. Goethe is coming back to the pit lane, but that's fine. His pace, coupled to cars on an outlap, let's get them going. But those cars that are still on the stilts, you wonder whether they're even going to venture out. Number 20, Valentin Pierberg's Mercedes. He'd be lucky now to get an outlap in. So it is a one-shot restart, isn't it? By the time you've done your outlap, you're going to get realistically one flying lap.
Yeah, just looking at the number 6 Mercedes, Luca Stolz, who initially was the quickest car on the racetrack. But let's wait and see. Oh, here we go, here we go. Can you get my... contact with the Mad Panda as the 32 Audi, Charles Veitch. What are you doing, Charles? Sticking your nose in? Well, that might get your legs slapped, because that was not necessarily appropriate.
Trying to bulldoze into the queue, as people do on motorway roadworks. But anyway, damage down to one of the cars. That might get looked at by the stewards. So there is just about time for one more lap. But you're not going to get two. It's going to be one flying lap for every car. 88 then was first out, so we'll be the first one to do a time. Timo Boguslavski. But this installation lap, John, this lap out of the pit lane, absolutely crucial now to get the tyres up to temperature, because you've got no second chance.
No, absolutely right, and no surprise to me
Session
that
will
the
be
88 Mercedes...
extended by 1 minute. Session will be extended by 1 minute.
Okay, session extended by 1 minute. Helps a little. And a big lock up there by Boguslavski. Well, he's trying hard, that's for sure.
Well, he probably didn't get the message, or if he did get the message, coming into Tarzan Herman, his focus and concentration would have been on his braking. Maybe the message is what caused him to have that minor lock-up. So he now will get to complete this lap, which will be his first flying lap, and might be lucky enough to go and do a second one.
So the time to beat, 1 minute 34.190. At the moment, Timo Boguslavski, as what he said earlier, is 13th fastest. Number 31 is Frank Bird, and he's 4th. Boguslavski using as much of Zandvoort as he can. Sparks fly, curb is used. Valentin Pierberg's SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes ain't going out, because there's no point now, he can't get a lap in. But Boguslavski is working this car really hard, isn't he?
He needs to, because starting in the 7th row of the grid, which is where he would be, is far from ideal. In fact, be in the 6th row of the grid. Nevertheless, it's almost. It's looking at the 108 Bentley. Actually, look, this Bentley, David, you've talked about it. We're now watching it on screen. They have been right now the car, the brand of this session. Very, very impressive.
So this car, absolute best sector 1, personal best sector 2, and now Nelson Panciatici comes towards the Kumho box, up towards the Ari Leindijk corner, runs it wide there, doesn't he, up against the gravel on the outside of the road. So this car is third, because Boguslavski has gone second on a 34.3. Panciatici needs to be in the very low 34s, and it's a 34.1 to go second fastest. He's 5 thousandths of a second slower than Jim Pla for the front row of the grid.
And he can continue on, because he came across the line with about 18 odd seconds available to him, and go back with Luca Stolz. And Luca Stolz, well, they've fallen down to 13th place. So big responsibility in the hands now of Luca Stolz to get the number 6 Mercedes up to where one would assume it naturally would be. But look at that battle, fighting the car.
So Ricardo Feller crosses the line and goes fastest, 133.586. Ricardo Feller for Emil Frey Racing in the Lamborghini. That came out of nowhere. Ulysse de Pauw is second, Norbert Siedler third. Jim Pla is down to 4th then. And has yet to take the checkered flag. So Jim Pla, look at this, personal, absolute best. 1 or 2 bail for the pit lane early, including a Mercedes that I hope is not Jim Pla's car, because that looked like a potentially good lap, but let's see whether he came in or not. So Ricardo Feller is the fastest, and it was Jim Pla. So a personal and an absolute best, and he's bailed at the very end to come into the pit lane.
Is that a miscommunication or whatever? What is impressive is that the Emil Frey Lamborghinis have gone fastest, third fastest. That time from both those cars came literally within the last minute of this 21-minute session, because it got extended by a further minute. And there you can see joy with the Emil Frey team. And why did Jimmy Pla bail? Was there a reason, or had he said, look, I've got nothing left in the tank, I don't want to do an extra lap in these tires if I can't actually improve?
Well, unless he had a moment in that third sector. It's a good question, but that car, as you say, has come in. Let's have a look. He may have had a moment, and this was a moment. Whoa, whoa! That's the answer, John.
That is not a good place to be. That is coming through the Kumo curve. Just misjudged it, I assume, and ran way, way wide, and that's why he bailed, and rightly so. But what's also impressive is the TalkSport Mercedes number 7, Yusuf Pukahaka, has gone third quickest.
So, at the end of an interrupted session, let's just recap the order. Ricardo Feller sets the top time, with Ulysse de Pauw second, Yusuf Pukahaka, much underrated Finn, third, ahead of Norbert Siedler, then the rally-crossing Jim Pla, and Nelson Panciatici sixth. Timur Bogoslavski seventh, ahead of Frank Bird. Lucas Stoltz, a long way back for him, ninth, ahead of Thomas Tuila. Aurelian Panis 11th. Ezequiel Perez Compangs Mercedes is 12th from Josep Vega, Consta Lapalainen, and Charles Weir only 15th. Leo Roussel lost an early lap time, but he's ahead of Benji Haites, then Adrian Delina's Porsche, Tommaso Mosca's Audi, Petru Umberescu's Mercedes, then Giorgio Roda, the penalised Ben Goethe, Alex Arca, Miguel Ramos with the Balwell Lamborghini, Louis Machiel's Ferrari, Valentin Pierberg, who didn't go out with lack of time, and Alexander West at the foot of the times. Now, number 108 Bentley under investigation, as is 25 for an unsafe release. Let's look at the highlights of the session then, because it was a pretty lively 20 minutes and a bit in terms of start to finish times, but they didn't get 20 minutes of running, as we know. 1 or 2 of them using the curb early on, sparks flying, a spin for number 188, which was Alexander West, who was off the road quite early. Jim Pla trying very, very hard indeed. And another car that was in a big hurry, 107 Bentley of Ulysse de Pauw, 108 of Nelson Panciatici. Jim Pla, though, looked mighty until we had the red flag caused by this incident for Benji Goethe off the road, and it took a fair few minutes, understandably, to retrieve the car, get it out of harm's way. When we had the session back underway, there was this little brush in the pit lane between Charles Weerts. Off the road, Charles Weerts went as well after the restart, so another reason why he didn't improve. And then we had Jim Pla rally crossing at the very last corner. So Ricardo Feller tops the times. He's on pole for race 1, and we'll see you for the action a bit later on.